Hello, and welcome to the show. I'm Vila Bianca.
I'm Robert motherfucking Reed.
Hell yeah, this is Skeptic Generation.
And we need to talk.
Oh my god, you nailed that. That was awesome.
Way to go, us.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Eric is not here today. Instead, I am joined by the incomparable Robert Reed of Gin and Truth on YouTube. Robert, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, man, where do I start? This is a really boring story. My name's Robert Reed. I live in Texas. Yay, there's that.
Always a fun and exciting thing right now.
Oh, very much so. I don't even know where I actually start. A little bit about myself. How about this?
Yeah.
I am a really boring shit-talking atheist. I think that's how you found me. The YouTube channel and the podcast, Gin and Truth. I got tired arguing with theists.
Yeah.
It got to a point to where I felt like I was talking to a child, to be honest with you. It's like, did you eat those Oreos? And as they've got Oreos coming out of their mouth, they're telling you, no, I didn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start my own goddamn show.
Yep.
And so I did. And it is me and the world's most meager setup, but I just do it to have some fun. And I'm having fun with it.
Well, I have fun watching it. It's always on point. You are bringing something new to the table.
Thanks.
One thing that I really appreciate about what you do is, as someone who's kind of watched quite a bit of this atheist kind of content, talking about these issues, you start hearing the same things over and over again.
True.
You know, and you're like, oh, that definitely just goes back to something Sam Harris said once.
Right.
But the way that you engage, you often bring like just a new way of thinking about it, or at least phrasing it. That's always really interesting to me. So, yeah.
I am definitely my father's son. Blunt, directly to the point, cut the fluff. So.
Yep. Hell yeah.
Maybe that's what you're catching.
No fluff here.
None.
Not allowed. Apart from the numerous stray pets that we have collected between us. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, you guys. In a little bit, I'm going to hand it over to Robert. Usually, if you've watched the show before and you've seen our guests, we hand the mic over a little bit. You just get to go up on a soapbox and, talk about whatever it is that's on your heart, so to speak.
There's a lot there. Let's do it.
But first, a couple of announcements. We hit 15,000 subscribers, I believe, yesterday. So I'm super excited. Thank you, everybody, for hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't already, consider doing that. I know that Eric kind of asked for that for his birthday last week, and y'all delivered. So thank you on behalf of both of us. I am going to be flying solo next week, giving Eric a little bit of a break to pay him back for taking over while I was in Portland. So definitely call in and just, if only to see how well I do on the fly by myself with nobody else to throw a ball to. So it'll be fun. If you are interested in calling the show, please do. We would love to chat with you about anything that you believe, anything that you think, any claims you want to make. The weirder, the better, honestly. Give us a call at 585-526-8774, or you can use the link tiny.cc/callsg, and that'll connect you directly with our lovely call screeners. So we look forward to hearing from you. All right, Robert, what are we talking about today? Take it away.
Oh, well, when we were texting back and forth trying to figure this out, you're like, what do I want a soapbox on? Mm-hmm. I can't lie. What's got my goat here as of recent, transgender rights.
Hell yeah.
For one reason only, it's the right thing to do to stand up and talk about this. And the whole no movement gains traction unless its antithesis joins in. It's one thing for our trans family members to stand up and say, you know what, it would be kind of nice if you treated me just like a human being. To me, it carries more weight when a cisgender person stands up and says it with them. Mm-hmm. And it just bothers me. Because one, I cannot stand watching someone get picked on. It absolutely bothers me, big time. And two, it's just not fucking right. And when you sit here and you listen to them about how they're being demonized and how they're being projected as, sexual predators. And it's like, this would be a really easy conversation to have if we were having the same conversation.
Right.
Like on this side of the fence, someone just saying, you know what? When someone needs to take a leak, they need to be able to go to the bathroom and take a leak. That to me is logical. Over here, it's like, don't go into a bathroom and commit a sex crime. It's like, I don't know how I have to urinate translated to.
How is this connection being
Exactly.
made? Yeah.
And it's just like, of all the things that are fucking up in this world today, we're really going to sit here and have a useless argument on where someone can take a piss. We're really going to sit here and have these ridiculous arguments where if someone says, you know what, here are my pronouns. If you want to be respectful, use these. What is so hard about just using someone's preferred pronouns? What do you gain by, digging your heels in? And he's like, no one's ever bothered to ask, what's Madonna's last name?
Yeah.
When Prince turned himself into no one's like, okay, right? I know people have been married 3 and 4 times, and we break our back to remember their new names, their new pronouns, their symbols, and all that other good stuff. But when the person that you've known for 18 years says, you know what, I'm going to start living my truth, please call me, and all of a sudden, now it's a fight. Now we have to have Greg Abbott pull special sessions out of his asshole. And it's like, why? What do you gain by being an asshole to somebody? To me, the answer is nothing. So as long as they're going to do it, I figure I'm just going to fight.
I really appreciate that. We had a conversation about this on the show, I think a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Someone calls in and they were talking about how there's a lot of language around like, oh, just, sit down if you're not the person being affected, it's not your problem. And that really isn't the right way to go about things.
Not at
because
all.
the people who are being listened to need to be the ones kind of at the fore, kind of bringing that argument.
So if you're not being affected, to be quiet?
Yeah, so like the argument is very much around, like reproductive rights.
Right.
Like if you don't have a uterus, shut up, essentially. And I get the ethos there because a lot of people without uteruses are saying kind of stupid shit right now. But at the same time, we need allies. Right?
Absolutely.
We need to be able to step in for each other and be like, hey, I got this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, oh man. You had to bring up that topic, didn't you? I'm really going to have a stroke. The reproductive rights thing just really, that one also gets my goat.
Oh, yeah.
Because that one, words matter. Words matter. Again, over here, transgender. Over there, sex predator. It's like, we're not having the same conversation.
Right.
And words matter. So when I hear someone say you're pro-abortion, it's like, I don't think you heard what just came out of my mouth. I said I'm pro-choice.
Yeah.
Again, with choice, everybody wins. If you get pregnant and you want to carry that pregnancy, your choice.
Right.
If you get pregnant and you don't want to carry that pregnancy, again, your choice. Everybody wins. And again, it's just words matter. And so when you say you're pro-abortion, it's like, again, when you're ready to actually talk to me and not for me, maybe we can sit down. But until that day, I'm just going to get on a mic and talk crazy shit about you like a dog because you are no, you're not part of the problem. You are the problem. Your words are making this topic infinitely more difficult than what it has to be.
We need to be using language that actually represents the issues.
Exactly.
And you can tell when somebody has only heard one side by the language that they use. And that's, across the board, especially we've experienced this as atheists, as people who used to be Christians.
Right.
Because the way we used to talk about atheists
right.
was a very set script. You know, like, oh, they're backslidden, they just want sin. Oh. And now you're on the other side and you're like, oh, I can tell who they're listening to by the terms that they're using to describe me.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, very important.
That's always the fun one. I remember, excuse that. I did a show with Peter once, and we talked to a Christian, and about halfway through, because again, he wasn't having a conversation. He was just regurgitating the same shit that I'm sure you said, I said. And I remember telling him, like, dude, you're not talking. Because he saw how frustrated I was. You're not talking. You're literally just sitting here reading.
Yeah.
And it's just everything that you've said, I've said because I was a Christian once too. And his response was, word for word, no, you wasn't.
Exactly.
And I was like, I got pissed, but then I remember I've said that too. Right? You're just like, God damn it, Robert.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. All right, you guys, please do call in. We have open lines and we would love to talk to you, especially if you're a theist, especially if you've had conversations with us before, you want to follow up.
Please.
Kay, I know that you were, threatening to call in about debate bros and whether or not they are good for the movement, and I would be happy to have that conversation. Yeah, anybody, do call in. We are going to go to Anderson in Minnesota in a few minutes. Let me just type this up. One of the cool things about being a producer and the host is you have to juggle two things at once, which is always fun.
Your hands are full.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
We've been showing you the back end exactly what happens, what goes where. There's a lot. There is a lot that goes into this.
Clearly. Yeah, when I do my show tomorrow and I'm sitting there in my damn kitchen, I'm sitting here and remember all this, like I suck.
No, not at all. You guys, you have the charm. You're bringing it.
No, charm.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's usually not a phrase used with my name in the same sentence.
Well, it is true. And we are going to go to Andrew. Oh, I said Anderson on there. We're going to fix that once we talk to you. Andrew, you're calling about a conversation with a friend about the LGBTQ community. Is that correct?
Correct. Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. This is kind of spontaneous, so like
even
I was just
better.
pulled over to the side. So let's see. I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible. So I called a friend of mine who is an old friend, like 20 years. Mm-hmm. My father had just recently got a successful kidney transplant. I wanted to inform him about that. And it was sort of like a few different topics that came about. And I'm just going to throw them out there real quick.
Yeah.
It started with he couldn't go visit him because he's not fully vaccinated. He's not vaccinated at all. Mm. And then it came to where I don't remember all the meaty context of it, but it came to where we were talking about how I'm like into like the convention scene, like cosplaying and stuff. And how when I was kind of describing like, my status of like, dating and whatnot, and he basically said, oh, stay away from poly. And I was thinking, like, Polygon from Pokemon? And then I realized, oh, like polygamy. And I said, well, I don't know if I am or not. I have never been in, I've never been in a relationship, so I haven't really experienced it. And he kind of gave me like a very disapproving, like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like disapproved of it. Mm-hmm. And then it came down to where he said, like, I can't keep up with the LGBTQ community. And I'm thinking, okay. What do you mean? And he said, well, as an example, I was kicked out of a WoW guild because I refused to call someone they, them. And I'm like, okay. Oh. Mm-hmm. And then to kind of sum it up, I had been we had talked about how I was into, I was going to therapy for like just social anxiety, mostly work, like stress anxiety, just to kind of like, center myself there, which it works amazing, by the way. But he said, he chimed, well, if you want to get help, you can join our religious community. And I'm like,
oh Jesus!
I think I'll stick with. I'll stick with the person I'm paying that's really helpful for me.
Yeah. How about the person who's trained in this stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny that he equates being poly with being LGBTQ, because technically it is a queering of relationships, sure, but also it's telling that anything that is not within one particular kind of way is automatically, whoop, you're the opposite. You're something I don't understand, don't want to know about. Yeah.
But why the disapproval? Right? I mean, how is it? All right. So the poly thing, the disapproving look he gave you, It's like, how is it that what you eat, how does it affect how he shits? You're not asking him to join in on anything. So it's like, keep your disapproval to yourself. Right? And then one thing I've always hated is when I hear people say, I can't keep up. The last person who said that to, I dug off in their ass. Because if you have graduated from high school, what you learn in second grade is different from what you learn in the third grade. We're always taking in new information. If you've got a certification or a license for your job, there are these things called continuing eds. We're always taking in new information. So it's not that you can't keep up, it's you don't want to keep up. And so that speaks to this cat. And then finally with the whole, would you like to join my religious group to help with whatever anxiety or anything else? It was like, would you like to call an NFL punter, when your toilet breaks? Or would you like to call a plumber? Because when the punter comes over and the next morning you're wading through 6 inches of shit water in your bedroom, you made the wrong choice. And so it's like, if you have a mental issue of any kind, holy crap, man, please continue to see a damn professional. Please.
I love that so much. Yeah, I think, I don't know. I feel like you hit the nail on the head with that one. It's not about you.
Right.
Right. But also it's cool, Andrew, that you are having conversations about oh, hey, I might be. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm going to figure out. And honestly, you're absolutely right about the can't keep up bit. How many new apps have you downloaded that you now use in your, I went from I'm going to Uber somewhere to I'm going to Lyft somewhere. That was a shift. That's a word that's never been used before.
Yep.
And now it's just part of my vernacular. You can do it. It's just, do you want to?
They don't want to.
Exactly.
To me, it comes back to also, are you going to dehumanize somebody? Mm-hmm. Right? Are you going to recognize the person standing right in front of you?
Yeah.
Who may be gay, lesbian, trans, but all that good stuff. And the whole I can't keep up, to me, also just translates to you're not a human to me. You are not worth that. Yeah, I'd much rather learn the new app on my phone than recognize your humanity.
Yeah.
That's garbage. Pure garbage.
Yeah. I'm so kind of at a loss because, it's I've known him since high school, since, 2000. And, this wasn't really a thing that we were thought of. And it's just I almost want to say just ever since this, 2020 hit, it's just everything. It's just here, let's just throw all this shit at the fan and see where it lands. And, and again, I don't know what he's been exposed to himself. And that could very well be. I hate, I personally am more of I'm not a fan of religion. I've had my own personal experiences because, I used to be religious. Yeah. And fortunately for me, it was a lot less I'll just throw it out how Southern Baptists go out to the funerals and stuff. We didn't have any of that. So, I would say I was fortunate enough to not have to, worry about that too much. But I kind of feel that plays a key part in the way that he thinks is, with that religion. Obviously, I don't have any proof of that, but it's just this feeling I get because it's if that wasn't there, nothing else is really teaching that kind of behavior.
True.
As far as I'm aware, at least.
The tricky part there is what happens when you leave a religion, but you don't leave all the things that it has been teaching you. Yep. And that's where we get into a lot of trouble. And it sounds like what you've been able to do, whether because you were never deeply indoctrinated or in an environment that was trying to push that on you as much, or whether it's because you've kind of gone through that deconstruction, you're able to say, oh, this religion is not just about a God belief. It also taught me beliefs about sexuality and, hierarchy and even economics. Everything is kind of influenced by how you grow up and the religion that you practice. So understanding that is such a huge part of it. So congrats to you. We are going to move on, but thank you so much for calling in, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew Peace.
Oh, absolutely. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to both of you and just kind of get, just get an insight and, kind of help me out moving forward.
Perfect. Well, thank you for calling, and feel free to call again.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. We are going to talk to Zeno in South Korea. For those of you who do not know, Zeno has called in before and is usually very bad at staying on topic. So we're going to see if we can get him to stay on this argument.
This will be good.
So, Robert, I want you to feel free to take away whatever you want here. We're going to be talking about the ontological argument for God.
All right.
Zeno, welcome back to the show.
Hey.
Hey.
What's happening, Zeno?
What's going on?
Just hanging, man.
Contrary to popular belief, I can stay on topic. It just sounds like the things that I talk about, they go off topic because they're a bit bizarre, but I'll try to circle back around to show you how the things I'm explaining.
Beautiful. We love that. We love that for us. Let's go.
Come on with it.
Yes.
You've got ontological evidence for God.
Ontology, one entity has to depend on another. This phone call has to depend on the phone that I'm using. Okay. So if everything is divisible in life, how does this prove a God? Well, we have to describe why the wording is not important, but the thing is. So God, let's just start off by defining God.
Great idea.
God could be defined by so many different ways, right? It's subjective. But I would say God is just the beginning of your existence. The very origin point.
My existence personally? Like
everyone's existence. Everyone.
Okay, so you're talking about here is everything, not like the orgasm that my parents had.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure my dad having sex with my mom is reason I'm here.
We're going to the beginning.
Okay.
We're going to the very beginning.
Okay. Very beginning.
Right.
Origin point, yes, allegedly.
Yes, the origin point. And so the way we get here is not by talking about the bearded man in the sky, because, again, everyone knows that I don't agree that this person exists. I'm just saying God is an entity, and so you depend on something else. You can't be not neutral to depending on something else. Like the surface of an apple depends on the apple. So you have to have the apple first in order to have the surface. And you yourself, you have existence because you depend on something else. You are contingent upon something else. And that's how you get all the way back to God. And I don't have to describe exactly what God looks like, mm-hmm, or what shape it is or what color it is, but we know that you depend on something, and that thing depends on something, and you can go all the way back.
Zeno, let me holler at you, my man. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I'm not going to lie to you. I think I just heard about 3 minutes of nothing but assertions. Okay. Well, no, it's just I'm contingent on something else, dependent on something else to exist. Is that what you're saying?
Ontologically speaking, yes, you are. And if you say that you're not, then you would be arguing magic.
Well, I'm not arguing. So again, I can speak for myself. And as gruesome of a thought as it is, my dad fucked my mom 50 years ago. And I'm sure in 19, whenever Mama and Papa, that's how I got my mom. Big Mama and Big Bart, that's how I got my dad. And we can keep spinning this backwards until, we get to, the first single-celled, whatever we want to call it. I'm not a scientist, I'm a fighter. But as far as I know, scientifically, that's as far back as we've been able to peel this onion back. So, can you come with something stronger other than saying it just has to be? Because if you can, I can tell you right now, you need to get on a plane, my man, because you're about to get a Nobel.
No scientists would argue
against
the origins of ontology. So I'm coming at this from the approach of just ontological dependence. So that's not just, this is what I think it is. Everywhere you look, everything depends on something else. The chair, if you're sitting down, I can't see. You sitting down depends on the chair that exists.
Right?
And so yes, we do have to keep folding it back. And for you not to fold it back, would be you saying, well, things just sort of appear.
Zeno?
But things don't just, yes.
They kind of do at the level of molecular biology that people have started exploring for the last 50 years. The reason that quantum physics is quantum physics and people are freaked out by it is because things do just kind of appear. There are no rules that we understand at that level yet. That all that said, there's a set problem here. Okay, you're getting your sets mixed up. There's the set of the things that we experience in our day-to-day life, which you are correct about, right? We need a chair to sit on the chair. Cool, that makes sense. That is how it works in this set. But we have no evidence. We have no evidence that the requirements for the set here. Zeno, do you have it on speakerphone or do you have us on in the background? Because we've got a lot of echo.
Let me turn the volume down.
Thanks.
Great idea.
Cool. Perfect.
All right,
Thank you. It's a problem that you are putting the requirements of your set A onto this hypothetical set B, which is something that began something beyond time, something beyond space. If we're making the claim that everything that exists in set A, right, the cause and effect that rules this set applies to set B, then set B by definition cannot exist because it is by definition not part of time or space or affected by cause and effect. So you can't at once say the rules of set A apply to set B while also telling me that set B plays by completely different rules because it started without time, without space, and is a cause of everything without an effect itself. Do you understand where that's a problem?
Well, I wouldn't say God is not contingent upon other things.
Oh.
Most Christians or other religious folk may say that God is the end-all be-all. Now, that's a separate discussion if we're going to discuss what God is contingent upon. So we're just talking about God itself. And so you said that God, so let's take it this way. If I program time and matter into a game, I'm able to invoke these properties.
Oh, dude.
Even though I might be bound by some type of time, but that may be a different type of time. I'm not going to go down the route of meta time or the different types of time there may be, or abstract properties that might exist. But what I will say is that I was talking to my wife the other day, and I explained it kind of like modding. This is like a open source code that's open for grabs. So once you create the code, anyone can modify it. So I'm not saying God is the creator of time, space, and matter. What I am saying is that once the life code is out there, little organisms, bacteria, and entities can interact with that code and then build upon it. But, however, you still have that origin point. That origin point does not cease to exist. It had to be there. And that origin point is, I'm just calling that God.
I'm sorry. Dude, I'm sorry. It just...
so they call that the singularity, by the way.
Okay.
And...
dude, I got to jump in. I'm sorry. You've done a lot of talking, but you haven't said much. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm really am trying to follow your train of thought here. So I'm going to try and plug some stuff in. Tell me if I'm getting it, because I've heard this. Are you a Christian, Zeno?
No, I am a deist.
Okay, well, because it kind of sounds like the whole, what is it? God does not depend on space, time, and matter, therefore he can create the... So is that kind of where you're going with that?
God does not depend on space, time, and matter, just like my programs itself. The time that I program in doesn't depend ultimately on me, but the tools that I use. So you could say that. Okay,
so then why not? Why does your God not, or creator God, why does this being, entity as you called it, Why does it not depend on space, time, and matter?
Because it's before space, time, and matter. So
how did you get to that point?
You're contingent upon.
Right. Okay. That's what I'm saying when I said earlier. This just sounds like a whole bunch of assertions.
Well,
how do you know my blind beast on freeze wasn't before time, space, and matter? Say that again.
Entity has to depend on another. That's
right.
What has to happen in your reality, in my reality.
Right. And you said that
everything is divisible by 2.
Right. And you have said that, and now you've peeled this thing back to the point to where this entity does not need time, space, and matter. And you're saying, and there's your special exception. And so I'm asking you, how is it that your entity, or whatever it is, does not depend on time, space, and matter? How do you know my Jack Russell Terrier is not that special being?
All right, so you have X depends on Y.
You've stated that.
Depends on Y. So you can keep going back, right? So we know before, like, space, time, and matter is what we observe, but who says that's the end-all, be-all? I'm not saying that God is after space, time, and matter. I'm saying that space, time, and matter itself also has to depend on something. Because space, time, and matter could have appeared, sure, but it still has a reason why it showed up. And remember, we're going back to the very beginning. If we're talking about God, the beginning.
I'm not getting past this problem with sets, because you keep saying it cannot be X because we see that in set A. But you're talking about a set that has no shared properties. You're saying we see that things depend on each other. Therefore, this other thing that doesn't play by those rules must also play by those rules. You're making a set of rules that I agree with for this world. Exactly, right? Cause and effect. And you're saying this other thing that doesn't play by those rules must exist because of those rules, right? You can't jump back and forth like that. If you're going to say that thing can't exist because of these rules, you're going to have to come up with something else.
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
So I'm not invoking the same properties that we have to this God. So I'm not saying God had to play by these rules. Kind of like the programmer of Halo doesn't have to play by the rules of Halo. You just basically start off with a blank space and then you program Halo.
Right, so but what you're saying you're using the rules of the game Halo and the program to prove the programmer. And you just said that they don't have to play by each other's rules. So you're saying because the program of Halo works this way, there must be a creator that doesn't follow those rules. And that doesn't make sense.
God damn it, V. Well, I've taken up too much time already. I think I'm going to run circles, but this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll just go ahead and let you guys move on to other callers.
Yeah.
Well, my main argument, and I'll try to call back next Sunday if you take the call.
Yeah, please do.
My main argument is simply ontology. And so I'm trying to prove God with ontological dependence. So the surface of this can't exist
without the can,
unless you have the can.
Yeah.
So the surface of the can doesn't have the same properties as the can itself. So you would say, if I will, it's less than the actual can itself. So the surface of the can is less than.
Wait,
because it can't.
Oh,
sorry,
dude.
Okay. So
these are some kick-ass
we're
analogies,
gonna have to work on the number of metaphors that we put into these
you maxed out,
conversations. We've got like 1 or 2 max. Next week, please do call back. I want to continue this because I think we hit on exactly where we're different. Okay.
I enjoy you guys.
Good job, Zeno, man. That was all right. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
My man did a lot of talking.
Oh
man, we had apples, we had tomato cans, we had a whole bunch of shit.
We had halos.
There was a word in there I did not recognize.
Sitting on the chair,
the chair.
Yeah. And this is what happens a lot with Zeno. I'm excited because I think we got farther on that call than we have in a very long time.
That was far?
That was far. That was a good call. For
Okay,
Zeno.
like I said, Zeno, I'm sure he's a tremendous human being. He doesn't kick puppies, but he did a lot of talking and didn't say a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
was-
I mean, that's what ontology will get you a lot of the time.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm all about the ontology then.
Oh my
No, I'm not.
gosh. No, I'm not actually.
Not if that's ontology, I'm not about it.
All right, we are going to talk to Uncle Beck in New Mexico real
All right.
quick because I believe he has something fun to say.
Okay.
Uncle Beck, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, Beck, how's it going?
It's going. Robert, you might know me as B No Just B.
Oh, yeah.
And you were on some. Yeah, how you doing, buddy?
All right. How's it going over there?
It's going good. And B, I just want to say hi. I've never got a chance to talk to you. I have much love and respect for you.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thanks. So honestly, I just called in a little comic relief here, and partially, and to thank Robert for bringing up the trans topic and the rights and everything else everybody's going through. And I wanted to throw in there also women's rights. So
Yep.
But no, I just wanted to thank you guys for bringing it up. It's,
Of course.
You know, I'm a trans guy. It's close to my heart, and yeah, it's just great. And I love. People in the cishet community are thinking of people like us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. God, it's good to hear from you again. Absolutely. Yeah, I was on your show. I met Miss McDonald, Cynthia.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. And I remember that
Cynthia.
first show, I was on there with her, and I was like, maybe I should just sit down and shut the fuck up. I mean, she was magnificent, right? Just a total intellectual surgeon. And I'm just sitting here with like a crayon. I was like, hate bad. And it's just, she was fantastic. And I loved doing it. I think I did 2 of your shows, and I absolutely enjoyed it.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
definitely, Uncle Beck, drop the links to
Yeah.
those shows in the comments so that we can benefit from that as well and watch those shows.
Man, if you got another one, yeah, I'll jump on.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely.
Oh, Robert, I would always do a show with you. I need to come over and join you on Gin.
Say that
Gin and
again.
Truth. I need to come over there.
Oh,
I need
yeah.
to come join you on Gin and Truth.
You know, I suck at technology. As soon as I can figure out how to start hosting shows and stuff like that, because again, I was telling V, right now I'm just sitting here talking to my damn iPhone and I look like an idiot. So, I mean, yes, I would absolutely love to do a show with you. I've done one with the Lavender Lady, and I'm going to tell you what, the talk was fantastic, but me setting up the technology by myself, horrible. So, yeah, I would love to. I need to find out how to do the whole computer stuff so it looks better and sounds better than what it was. But yeah, I would love to do one with you.
Awesome. Well, we got you.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
let us know.
Thank you,
We'll
thank you,
help
thank
out.
you.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in, Beck.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, V, and thank you, Robert. I love you guys.
Love you
Keep
back.
doing what you're doing. Much love and respect.
Mwah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Bye. That was awesome.
That was.
I
That
love it
was
when
all
people
right.
call in who know you. All right. This is actually a call that I am so excited about. Tim from the Czech Republic
Oh, okay.
is asking what's more important, promoting skepticism and critical thinking or spreading awareness about spiritual abuse?
Oh, wow.
So big conversation,
Here
big
we
talk,
go.
and I'm very excited to hear both of your thoughts on this. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hello, Wayne and Robert. How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Tim?
Yeah, I'm good. So, you just read my question. So, what are your ideas about this?
Yeah. Robert, I'm super curious about
Oh.
what you think.
Well, what is more important, promoting skepticism or critical thinking, spreading? I don't know why those two things can't walk hand in hand. I don't think this has to be an either or. I mean, this is a 49-51 if you ask me. Promoting skepticism is great in all realms. To bite on the first hook, baited hook, to me is always the worst decision. For myself, probably the world's worst analogy, and I'm going to go the way of Zeno there. But when I was being recruited to play college football, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the best advice I was ever given was take all of your visits, then sit down and decide. because you're going to be wild on every campus you go to. Everyone's going to tell you you're the greatest football player that's ever lived. And so skepticism, again, to get one ideology, one idea, one whatever, and immediately jump on it without asking any questions and just say, this is the best ever, usually just doesn't work out. As a former Christian, can confirm, right? And then critical thinking is spreading awareness about spiritual abuse. Again, also highly important. And I think the two walk hand in hand, because I think we all know the stories of religious abuse, mental, physical, sexual. And I think a part of the not speaking up is, one, not knowing that you can, feeling absolutely powerless, which is part of the abuse. Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, I can wax forever on that one. But yeah, I don't think that this is a situation where we need to pick which one is more important, because I think these two topics walk hand in hand.
Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, on one hand, like, of course, like, this is, like, very intertwined. But on the other hand, like, I am writing articles for a Czech blog about spiritual abuse. And it's like, when I'm writing articles or when I'm speaking with people, I kind of, like, have to, like, prioritize what I'm gonna talk about. Mm-hmm. And while I think that critical thinking is like a crucial tool to dismantle and call out spiritual abuse, I think that, like, how to say it? On one hand, like, one thing is that it seems to me that people, especially like religious people, are more willing to talk about spiritual abuse than about their, like, beliefs in either, like, certain, like, cosmological things, or, like, their belief in God, or, like, doctrines and stuff. And on the other thing is that it seems to me that avoiding and dismantling spiritual abuse and supporting people who are victims of it is, like, way more important than being able to like, distinguish factual and non-factual claims. Like, if I put it simply, I think, like, for me and for other people, like, people are more important than facts, if it's understandable what I mean.
I can get where you're coming from with that, for sure. The way that I would talk about the connection between them is you can spread awareness of spiritual abuse, and I think that that is a very important thing to do by itself, right? You don't have to do both in order to do one of them well. You can do one or the other. You can do both if you would like. We try to do that on this show. But yeah, absolutely. If that's where your heart is, if that's where your passion is, and that's what you want to talk about, do that. You don't need to feel pressure to talk about what everyone else is talking about. But I do think that there's use in seeing the connection there and kind of where those hands are, you know, intertwined. Yeah. Because to me, it's very much like leaving an abusive relationship, where you can know objectively that something is abusive, that something is wrong, you aren't being treated correctly, and people can tell you, you know, you're in a bad spot, you're not with somebody who values you. And that's raising that awareness of that abuse. And you might listen to them, you might believe them because you trust them, and you might leave. But you're not really going to know how to avoid the next abusive relationship until you get into a healthy one, right? Until you have that understanding of, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. I wasn't getting X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
And then you know for the next time what to look out for. So a lot of spiritual abuse is only possible because people do not develop their critical thinking skills. Specifically, it's an intentional part of indoctrination, not allowing people to become skeptical or to express skepticism. So they are intertwined. You can do one without the other. There are skeptical theists. There are abusive skeptics, right? Like it runs the gamut.
Absolutely.
But if you are going to protect someone, not just from that particular spiritual abuse, but from other forms in the future, you need to equip them to know what to look out for and what to avoid. And I think that's where the skepticism comes into play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. And do you think it's worth time and energy to try to connect to religious communities and try to persuade them to implement mechanisms that would help prevent spiritual abuse while not necessarily challenging their, let's say, doctrine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Going after their doctrine, I would think, is a bad idea. I would imagine they would react the exact same way when I react when a Christian knocks on my door, right? You were not invited. This isn't a discussion, right? But to go in there, it's like, continue to believe what you want to believe. But here are the top 5 things to look for to be able to spot abuse. To go in there and to not touch their belief. Again, when they are ready, like I was, I'm sure V.
Yep.
When you are, if you ever get to the point to where you're like, you know what, it's time for me to walk away from my faith, bam, right? That's not your job to go in there and tell them, drop this. But to go in there and say, keep your belief, I'm not here to challenge that, but, right?
Yeah, what about this
absolutely
other
spot
thing?
on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that you're right, Robert. I think that it is very valuable to have religious groups and organizations and churches that are dedicated to reducing spiritual abuse. And it is possible to be part of a church and not be spiritually abusive.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely possible. They are not mutually exclusive. And I think that a lot of the danger that we actually find ourselves in terms of being able to communicate is assuming that that is the case, right? As atheists, to look at maybe our church experience or our experience with religion and say,
Yep.
ours was abusive, so all of it is abusive.
Right.
You are all abusers. You are all bad, right? That's not going to get anybody convinced of anything apart from you don't understand me. So yeah, I think that it's very useful to be able to do that. But I would also caution here, and Tim, I don't know if you were previously a believer at all. Is this something that you used to believe yourself?
Yeah, it will be soon 3 years since I have left this destructive cult I was raised in.
Well, congratulations,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Way to go.
But I would also caution, because I find myself having to deal with this as well. One of the instincts that my personal experience with religion gave me was to save other people.
Oh, yeah.
Was to go into their spaces and witness to them. And when I became an atheist, I was like, oh, I should go into the churches and start, oops, wait a minute.
Yeah, that won't work.
That's a very religious thing that I want to do right now.
Absolutely.
And so if this is something that you feel passionate about, 100% go for it, but do not feel like you have to, right? Like, there is nobody keeping track of how many people you deconvert. There is nobody who is saying there is a right way or a wrong way to be an atheist. If you want to, if you have the opportunity to share your viewpoint with people who might benefit from it, cool, 100%, do that. But you don't need to infiltrate churches, right? You don't need to be the savior of other people who are experiencing spiritual abuse. That is something that happens, and if they come to you for help, help them. But don't take that on yourself. That is a huge weight that
Not your job.
I just want to make sure you're not bearing.
Yeah, I see. That actually really helps me make my next point, because I had other concern, because one of the recent articles I wrote was about boundaries in confession and other activities in religious community, and there were two of my concerns. First was if I'm about to talk about boundaries, I have to make sure that I am I myself don't have problem with boundaries, because I can't preach water and drink wine. And the other thing was if I'm gonna talk about those things as an apostate, about boundaries inside the church and inside church service, whether it's not too invasive, and whether people aren't just gonna hand wave it away, saying what do I have to say about that as an apostate?
Yeah, and that's, yeah, there are so many translation issues that are going to come up, especially as you have these conversations that people have, you know, near and dear to their hearts. All I would say here is respect their boundaries and demand that yours are also respected.
Oh, yeah.
So if one person, like, they're not all going to have the same level of comfort in a conversation. One person is going to be like, hell yeah, I want to debate this. Let's go. Let's get a drink and just yell at each other for fun. And that's awesome. And somebody else is going to be like very skittish and shy and maybe uncomfortable. And if they tell you that, then, you know, back off. It's like any other conversation. If you have a conversation about your favorite sports team and they get super animated into it, that's great. If somebody's trying to get away from you, you know, maybe they don't want to talk to you right now.
Absolutely.
And same for you. If they come at you and try and get you to change your mind or defend something that you are not comfortable putting your name on or don't know enough about, you are also 100% able to be like, that's a boundary. That's not something I want to talk about with you right now. I'm not getting the vibe that you actually want to listen. I think you just want to talk at me, and I'm not about that. And you get to walk away too. So person by person, those boundaries are super important, and monitoring your own and being a good steward, for lack of a better term, of your boundaries and others will subconsciously start helping other people understand what those are. Because if there's one thing that at least my denomination of Christian did not understand, it was boundaries.
Oh, neither was mine.
Yeah.
We were definitely in your face about it. I was saying downstairs, I owe hundreds of people an apology because there were no boundaries.
Yeah.
None at all.
Yeah.
None at all.
So,
Like, I don't know, like, how is this in, like, other religions, but, like, I think this is, like, so much prevalent in Christianity, like no boundaries at all, basically.
yeah. Because what you're doing is you're showing love, right? You're like, you're fighting for their soul, and they don't know any better, so you know best for them, and you're just going to go at them. And that's a problem when you actually want to start respecting the autonomy of the other person involved. Yeah.
God damn. That brought me back.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, yeah, the boundaries started when you got into the bulldozer and you just steamrolled over everyone else because, God damn it, you were right because you are the Christian.
Yep.
And you're just like, well, I don't want to talk about this. Like, I didn't hear a word you just said. You just steamroll. And, yeah, you would insult. You would do everything you could because where they spend eternity is that important. Mm-hmm. You're just like, yeah, I love the gay person so much, I'm going to call them the F word. Yeah, and I was like, yeah.
Tough love is not that. That is not a good thing to do.
Not at all.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for calling in.
Tim.
Was this helpful? Did you get some feedback that you were looking for?
Yeah, thank you. It was actually really insightful. It helped me, like, to make my mind about those things a little more.
So
good.
And yeah, keep up the great work and maybe hear someone again.
Absolutely.
And
we would
say
love to
hi,
hear from you.
For me, to Eric.
Absolutely will do. Thanks, Tim.
Go get him, Tim.
Or don't. Depends on whether or not they want to be got. How are you feeling so far, Robert?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
Fantastic. This is good times.
It's fun once you get into the water. You got to make the jump. But then you're like, oh, this is actually okay.
No, this is I can do this all day. Let's talk some shit.
All right.
Yeah.
So we might need to talk some shit with Ulrich right here.
Oh, dude. Okay.
All right. Ulrich, we're going to let you on. We will warn you. Boundaries are that people are going to be respected. You included. We're going to respect everybody as we talk about evolution creating transgenderism. That hurt to just say. Hi, Ulrich. Welcome to the show.
Ulrich?
Hello. Can you hear us?
Oh, come on, dude.
Yeah, let's
pick up, Ulrich. You can do it.
You can do it. Going once. Going twice.
Oh, come on, Ulrich. I'm praying for you.
Oh, damn. All right, we're dropping you back in the queue. So if you need to call back or fix your microphone, whatever you need to do, or, if it was just confusing to be online, that's fine too. Yeah, we are currently, we have no more calls for right now.
Okay.
Here's a good time for you to jump in if you would like to give us a call. So,
Hit it.
thoughts on, it's a different kind of show than a lot of the call-in shows. We do like to have a little bit more of a, give and take.
Okay.
Talk about some things that aren't directly God related. If you could have a perfect caller call in right now, what would you want to talk about?
Oh, man. Whew. The perfect
Take
caller.
notes, people.
Not on the God topic?
Or on the God topic. That is also okay.
I always feel good talking about Christian apologists. I would love for someone to tell me, as a Christian, what do they get from Christian apologetics?
I would love to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just, to me, they are professional liars. To sit there and watch a grown-up talk in a manner that if your 7th grader said that to you, you'd punish that sucker. We would call the 7th grader being disrespectful, but we call the 60-year-old man PhD. So I would love to hear a Christian give me an explanation on what it is they actually get out of listening to Cy Tim Brugge and Kate say, how do you know that, for 5 hours straight? And then say, that was the greatest debate I've ever heard. I would love to hear someone explain that to me.
I am very happy that he has kind of been disappeared.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Not missed.
Not at all.
This is something that I have been kind of annoyed by, which is I don't think every single apologist is being dishonest personally.
Oh, wow. Try me.
But I do think that apologetics inherently are dishonest.
Yeah.
So I think people have gotten into their heads that they believe the thing and they want to help other people believe the thing.
Okay.
But there is that verse that says you can lie for God if it means you're going to convert somebody. And I definitely think that plays a part in there.
Which apologist do you think isn't lying?
I think that, who's a good one?
Because I can't stand them all.
I mean, here's the thing.
Try me.
If I engage with one, chances are I'm going to come away thinking that they are being dishonest. But I don't want to make that broad assertion about ones I haven't met yet. So I wouldn't say like every single apologist.
I'll give you that.
Everyone I've met feels like they're either not playing like with a full set of like short-term memory,
Yeah.
or they are being dishonest.
I think they are being, and you're right. So I'm not going to do the whole broad brush thing. William Lane Craig is dishonest.
Oh, 100%.
Eric Hovind is dishonest. Turek, dishonest. Ravi, when he was alive, dishonest. It's just garbage.
Yeah.
Just pure garbage.
But this is the reason I don't do debates. I do not do debates because it's what that is. Debating professionally on stage is just who can be more dishonest more subtly, and
Pretty
look like
much.
they win. And atheists do this too.
Yeah.
So do debate bros. So
Right.
do like it's a whole format where I'm gonna sneak in this fallacy. No one's gonna know.
Right.
And because I did that sneakier than you did, I win. I just don't think it's a useful way to have conversation.
Couldn't agree more. And I've only done one debate.
Yeah. How'd it go for you?
That was a dumpster fire. 'Cause especially the way it was set up. Because when I called in, you could see the names on the screen. And the person's name, I thought that was my partner because it started out with the word godless. Turns out
Okay.
that was not my partner. So it was me and Amy Newman versus this person whose name I'll never say again and a Christian. This person over here was aggressive, was an asshole, and the only good thing that I will say I got from that is I learned my boundary, and that is I will never discuss the topic of rape with a Christian.
Oh, no.
Because if you have to take 17 minutes to say, to talk about rape, I've said you are either a rapist, a Christian apologist, or you are both.
Oh.
This should be the easiest conversation on the planet.
Yep.
Do you think rape is wrong? Yes, I do. Would you like more nachos? That's it. when you have to go back and forth, well, it's just your opinion. Yeah, it's kind of a good fucking opinion, don't you think?
Right.
Well, why should I do that? I cannot. So that's my experience. And so that is why with you, I will not do a debate.
No, I fully respect that boundary. That is something I have had on the show as well.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what else you are calling in to talk about, if we cannot agree on that, if it comes up in any way, shape, or form, you're done.
Yeah, I'm with you on
I
that.
walk or you get dropped.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh. All right. We've got Garrett on the line from Montana.
Okay.
And Garrett is a former idiot right-winger who wants to talk about the debate bros.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I will say this is how you described yourself, Garrett. We did not describe you in this way, I'm assuming.
That is totally accurate.
Okay.
100% accurate.
All right.
How you guys doing today?
Doing good. Excited you called.
Yeah, man. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, let's talk about debate bros. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was perfect timing. So I don't want to come off as like a full defense of debate bros because I do think that there is a lot of danger that comes with these like online cult of personalities. Like, you know, I use Vosh and Destiny as kind of like the go-to when we talk about these debate bros. And I see a lot of that cult of personality where it doesn't really matter what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's just, I like the person, therefore they're right.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of danger there.
There really is.
Big time.
Yeah. No, and honestly, go for it. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, but I grew up in a pretty right-wing household, not very overly religious, but Rush Limbaugh, you know, it was in the 90s, Clintons were terrible,
Yep.
And just kind of like echoed that throughout my 20s, almost into my 30s. You know, I'm 38 now, and I start to sit there and I go like, we're doing the same thing over and over. I don't see the results. Now I start to hear these guys on YouTube who can actually articulate that other side way better than anyone around me ever could. So, like, people like Sam Cedar was a big one for me.
Yep.
I wouldn't really classify him as a debate bro, but hearing him debate these libertarians, you know, I was very libertarian.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, oh, wow, once you peel back that onion, this doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Fun story. Do you
so
know?
I think having that person... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to drop this in. Did you know that the term libertarian up until the 1950s was a far left word for anarchist? And a very specific campaign was created in the 50s to steal that word for the right. And so the reason that people call themselves libertarians now, it's a direct result of that word actively being taken from the left.
I learned something.
Yeah.
I absolutely learned something.
Yeah, that is fascinating because I tell people now as a former libertarian that all libertarianism is anarchism in disguise.
Yep.
Because they don't want any form of government. They want it all torn down and gotten rid of. And that's where, like I said, once you peel back that onion, and most people never peel back that onion. They're never forced to or even want to.
Yeah.
But I think, like, where I want to, like, kind of defend the debate bro tactics, where, like, you're saying how, like, the fallacies, I just kind of tuned in at the tail end of what you guys were talking about before I joined, but I heard you guys kind of talking about how it's who can ever put in the best fallacy during a debate. And I think that when you're talking to a lot of these right-wingers, like, just, they don't care about facts.
Right.
It's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's just about convincing them. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good thing, but it's the reality, like, kind of, you know, boots on the ground. Most of these people just need convinced. It doesn't need to be for a good reason.
And yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, and you're spot on, and you also hit the nail on the head in terms of why I don't think that debate bros are actually useful. Now, bear with me here. So I think you are absolutely correct. Right-wing, libertarian, there is a very specific type of person who sees the person who wins as the right person, right? Oh, they're the strong one. They're the aggressive one. They won that debate. Therefore, I now agree with them.
Yep.
And it's cool when that can happen and the person who wins is not as terrible, right? Then you're like, oh, cool. Now they're following this guy who is a little bit less awful. The problem is that that's not de-radicalization. That's just a redirection of a bad epistemology. So the people who are debate bros right now, the people we think about, Vosh, Xander Hall, all of these people, they are benefiting directly from that poor mentality of winner is right person. And if they actually helped people to deconstruct that and de-radicalize, why do you think I won? Is it because I looked like I won? Is it because of the optics? Is it because of the fallacies that I was able to slip in? Those are bad because of X, Y, and Z. Actually, here's a good way to determine what you think and who you agree with. They'd actually lose a huge bulk of their subscribers. Wow. So they are benefiting from the same logic that right-wingers benefit from. It's just they happen to be a little less terrible in certain areas. So I'm always so skeptical when people say that they de-radicalize them. Like, yeah, you don't. You're not training them to think better or differently. You're just capitalizing on the fact that they think that loudest person is the one to follow.
You said a little less terrible. That's sad.
Yeah.
They don't suck quite as...
So, like, when you say a little less terrible, because, when you listen to a lot of these guys talk, they may be, on, quote-unquote, our side for some issues, but there's plenty of issues where they aren't, and it's not helping anything. But I'm wondering, when it becomes, too altruistic, when we're so worried about doing the right thing, as far as, de-radicalizing, rather than just using those same tactics that the right uses. That is very malicious. They're very underhanded. They're dirty. I'm not defending them, but, the road to hell, I feel like we're just going to keep, taking the high road all the way to hell. It's kind of my view.
The thing is, though, I love this conversation. This is exactly where I wanted to go today. So,
shit, I'm learning some stuff.
It's dangerous to employ the same tactics because all it's going to take for all of Vosh's fans to turn on him is for some right winger somewhere to beat him in a debate. And then all of a sudden, those people no longer interested in the correct answer. They want to follow this guy now. And there are more of them now because Vosh has built an audience. Or Vosh goes dark side more than he already does. And all of a sudden, all of those people are now parroting Nazi terminology in the comments of other people's YouTube. Oh, just kidding. That already happens.
It's almost like a political, when a dictator, there's a vacuum of power, just another strong man will take the place, kind of.
Right. And so I think a long-term solution, and this is idealistic of me, I guarantee, we need to stop fostering the strongman mentality within people, because at that point, it becomes an individual perspective. It becomes, how am I making these choices, as opposed to who is being the loudest in the choices that they are making and who do I follow? So again, kind of a libertarian take in certain ways. Be an individual. Understand why you value certain evidence and be rigorous about it. Be brutal about it. Cut down your own assumptions and expectations to the bare nubs and then grow it back by yourself. And that way.
God damn. Dude, I hope you're writing this down. This is some good shit.
I don't.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, I see your point 100%. And I do think that we are way too obsessed a lot of the time with being good at the expense of being effective. 100%.
Yeah.
It is a big problem. This concept that it'll all work out in the end. If we're good, eventually we'll get a reward for it, doesn't actually play out in real life. But I don't think that we need to bend to the same tactics that the other side uses, especially because we've seen they're actually not that good. They have their core group of people who are going to believe whatever they say and fall for these strongman tactics. But it's not actually that effective if you don't get them at an early age, either through indoctrination or through radicalization online. There is a very specific reason why the right is obsessed with children and with protecting the kids, and it's because they cannot foster their belief system critically or logically with adults. And so they need to keep that pool of future Christians, future Republicans, ready and willing.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
That is a cheap shot.
So
Jesus.
That's my assumption. I'm just saying. But
see,
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with you a little bit on
Yeah.
that one.
Hell yeah, bring it.
Is, we say how they aren't like effective, how it isn't that great of a tool, yet here we are in a world where Roe v. Wade just got turned over. They're winning. It is effective. I think it is, like, in a long-term sense. We have a long way to go as far as, like, what I would assume we all want to see in the world versus what the right wants to see. Excuse me, I have something in my throat. That's where I say, though, I think that they are effective. I think that, this is where I say, like, yeah, it's dirty, it's underhanded, but if we, as the left, so to speak, just collectively, use those same tactics as a whole, in 30, 40 years, because that's what's probably going to take to undo this mess, we could, in theory, have a more left-leaning society, but we'd have to do it pretty underhandedly. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Sad but true.
But I say it is effective. I don't want to say, like, just because we think it's right, therefore it's right, so we should be allowed to be underhanded, because that's what they're doing.
Right.
They think, hey, gay marriage is abhorrent, so whatever we do to get rid of it, A-okay.
Right.
I don't want to, like, say that taking that same mindset it's definitely not moral. I'm with you there. But I do think it's extremely effective.
I think you're right. I think that right here, though, we are making a distinction between, like, political organization and ideology, because they are two separate things, believe it or not, in this country. It's very, very fuzzy, that line. I think that for ideology, if you poll even, like, everyone in the U.S., including the Christian population, 70% do not believe that Roe v. Wade should have been overturned. 70% are on the side of bodily autonomy, and they are not being listened to either. So, and if you look at the people who are enacting these things, they are older people who have been indoctrinated since birth and have been put in these echo chambers in order to foster those beliefs. So there's a really, really good study that says that the reason that, and I'm gonna have to see if I can find it and link it in the description. Apparently, a lot of the justices, including people like Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and all of them, they come from a very specific group of people that are very specifically kept together and indoctrinated into right-wing belief systems through law school, through like personal clubs and organizations. Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And the reason that they all are so connected is because the right can only pull from that group, because if they go anywhere else, they're going to find honest people who start listening to other people's experiences and changing their views.
That's a shame.
It is. I'm going to have to see if I can find this. I forget exactly where I found it. So.
Holy shit.
But
and that's something that kind of like snapped me, and I think like you're kind of hitting on, the right is so hypocritical on so many things. And I think the left can be too as well. I'm not trying to do blanket statements, but I think there comes a point where like even the right will start to see like abuse of government, and they don't like big government. And I think if we keep hammering home that all they're doing is using the government as a hammer, I think that can turn a lot of right-wing minds. You look at people like DeSantis down in Florida. He's being aggressive with the government. That is. As a former libertarian, if you talked to me in 2015, I'd be like, this guy's, he's a Nazi as a libertarian.
Oh yeah, there is an amazing, we were talking earlier about how people talk about issues and you can tell kind of where they've learned their shit. There is a very pervasive idea that Republican or GOP, conservative, whatever, means small government, and that is absolutely untrue.
Absolutely.
And it has been forever. Like, it's not a thing that has happened recently that was like, oh, where are the values of the past? No, it's always been this way. It's just they were able to spin, we want to use the government for our very specific purposes, as we're not going to be
total smokescreen.
As someone who ran in those right-wing circles for so long, I remember back, this will date me, but back when George Bush Jr., whatever, George W. came in, and the Republicans spent like drunken sailors for 8 years, and the
Yep.
Republicans in their circles bitched and moaned about the government spending and all these things. I think that they still, like, deep down hold those, like, right or wrong, they hold those beliefs. They're only willing to put up with the abuse of it for so long. I think that's also what kind of snapped me, too, was like, I was not necessarily pro-Trump during that era, but that was definitely around the time where I kind of, like, peaked in my right-wingedness. And started to see the hypocrisy, just started to see, like, wait a minute. I don't think the president should be telling private businesses how to, like, what their players should and shouldn't stand for. That doesn't seem right. You know, those little, you know, death by 1,000 cuts kind of things that I think, with the addition to of, you know, hearing these people online kind of unpack these ideas more, snapped it. But yeah, I think like you're onto something as far as the, you know, the pool of where they're drawing from. Like you said.
Exactly. The Federalist Society, by the way, thank you, chat, is what I'm talking about when I talk about all of that. Garrett, we are going to have to move on, but honestly, like, if you ever come down to Texas, we'll get a drink and just, like, bitch about this shit, because I would...
Yeah, I super enjoyed talking. I've been watching you guys for years. Super enjoyed it. Love the chat.
Thank you so much.
Go get him, Garrett.
All right.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So all of a sudden, 15 minutes left in the show, we have all of the calls.
Oh, wow.
Let's
my
do
goodness. Come on.
I do want to talk to Nick, but first I want to talk to John in Canada real quick, who the other week said that we civilized the Native Americans through Christianity. Hey, John, fuck off.
On purpose? No. Did he say that out loud?
Off forever. Bye. Okay, he's gone.
Okay.
So,
dude.
No, that was a real thing that happened.
Dude.
That was not a good day. Not a good day for anybody on the show.
Some people should not speak English.
It's
words
very
out
true.
of their mouth where other people can hear it.
Especially, like, don't call into a freaking call. Like, this is gonna be on the internet forever, dude. All right, Nick.
What an ass.
In Tennessee. Nick. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Nick.
So, Nick, you want to talk about having conversations with Christians who keep pulling the "you were never a Christian" card?
Man.
Right. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Dude,
tell us a little bit about that.
So I have been having, I guess, mediation meetings with my father and his pastor about the differences in our beliefs and whether or not that should prevent me from being allowed to be around my siblings. And part of the conversations have been, what is a Christian, and how if I were a real Christian, then I would know these things and I wouldn't have doubted them. And so the fact that I, deconverted is to them evidence that I was never truly and fully converted. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of discredit a lot of my views about their religion in that way, because they're like, well, if you didn't have a personal relationship with God, then you can't possibly understand how real he is, or, that kind of stuff. And so I try and make arguments about, like, statistics about Christians and their denominations and things like that. But they turn the same thing on those people. They say they're not true Christians either, because they don't have the same kind of, they haven't come to the same conclusions.
Yep.
So they assume that those people don't have the same kind of relationship or understanding, and let's assume that they're not true Christians either. And so I'm like, well, what is a true Christian? They're like, well, somebody who, has a relationship with, a personal relationship with God and can, is as witnessed by, like, essentially supernatural powers that God gives them, or speaking in tongues and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea is you'll know you're a true Christian if you have,
magical powers,
personal anecdotes about it. And I'm like, well, that's dumb.
Yep.
But at the same time, like, we say you're not a true scientist if you don't have a certain amount of credibility or a certain amount of understanding, education, whatever. We can put criteria on people groups to determine membership, essentially. So is the, you were never a true Christian argument an example of the no true Scotsman fallacy, or is it a legitimate argument on their part that needs
it's
to
garbage.
Have its own
It's garbage, and let me tell you why I think it's garbage. It's just a layer between you and them. And it's one thing that this is very annoying, and I'll speak for myself. It's one I hate the bullshit when they say you were never a true Christian. It's like, one, you don't get to make that call, because two, I don't think they can define what a real Christian is, right? If you want to know what's wrong with that Christian over there, ask this Christian sitting right next to you. And it's just, to them, a real Christian is one that you weren't a real Christian if they don't agree with you.
Yep.
And I just think that's horse shit, right? And on the flip side, right, I was telling them before we started the show, when I was in Sunday school as a child, I got kicked out of Sunday school because I kept asking the teacher, what did Noah do with all the poop? The answers weren't satisfactory. So she kicked me out and told me, you're going to go to hell and you'll never see your mother ever again. Now, I can tell that story to 20 Christians and they will all catch the vapors and then turn around and say she wasn't a real Christian.
Yep.
But the effed up part is, let that atheist over there rip a fart without saying, excuse me, that's atheism. They're all assholes, right? So again, that whole, you were never true Christian, that's bullshit. For someone to tell you what was in your head and your heart, that's just beyond rude. And it's just a layer to push back their bullshit just one more step as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, someone can't tell you what you actually were. That's garbage.
Well, they can't tell you what you thought you were.
Exactly.
Like if I say I feel like I feel like I'm an artist, or if I were trans and I said I'd feel like I'm a woman, like we can't question that because we don't question people's feelings about themselves. But if they're saying like, no, you didn't, you might have thought you were a Christian, but you weren't because you didn't have the evidence, just like these naturopathic doctors or, essential oil enthusiasts and whatnot might think that they are medics or healers, but, we would say that they haven't met the criteria for qualification. So do the Christians get to establish a criteria or a membership test to determine who would be considered a true Christian or not?
Well, you know what? That is a good question. And I think that if they used it correctly, then sure. So there's a very big difference between actively setting a standard of guidelines, behaviors, expectations, education in order to access a certain label, right? You can be a doctor if you get a PhD, right? Like that is the requirement. You have a PhD, now you're a doctor, right? Unless you're a conservative talk show host talking about Jill Biden, in which case, she's not actually a doctor.
Those motherfuckers.
Right. So there are always going to be naysayers, right? But there's usually, in most circles, a pretty clear set of guidelines that are objective that anyone can look at and be like, you meet these criteria, okay, you are that thing. I might not agree with you on everything. I might think you're bad at what you do, but I'm not going to say you're not that thing. Now, Christians could do this, right? They could absolutely set a standard that they all agreed on that was objective. You must believe this.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right? But that's not how they use it, right? They're not using that tool in a honest way. They're just using that end goal, but you're not really one, willy-nilly, in order to disagree with whoever it is that is offending them, right? And so it's not necessarily that it's impossible to set up a structure where you can objectively tell who is a Christian. You could totally do that if you wanted to. You just have to get all the Christians in on it. And that has proved difficult. So I think it's less of a problem of the goal of establishing the real ones versus the not real ones is bad fundamentally. It's not.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to use it objectively, and you have to be able to use it across the board, or else it loses its meaning and it just becomes a no true Scotsman.
Okay, that's fair. But so I guess that's a good response when dealing with the topic in general with Christians at large. But when dealing with a specific group of Christians, i.e. my father and his church, who have established their criteria as, for example, somebody who has performed miracles. Mm-hmm. You're not a Christian unless you've performed miracles.
Wow.
Then how how do I argue against that when I would agree? Like, I
Well,
didn't perform any miracles.
Has everybody at your dad's church performed at least one miracle?
I would not say everybody. I would say that they believe that the upper echelons probably have. The other kind of casting stuff like speaking in tongues, interpreting tongues, healing the sick. My dad actually cited the seeing people's legs grow to the same length.
Oh no!
That one is a known scam.
Oh.
I called it on the spot.
Oh man,
it didn't matter.
See, this is getting dangerous now.
Yeah.
Because again, believe what you want to believe. If you think you need a God to, not kick your next door neighbor's cat, fine. Yeah, fantastic. When your God belief now starts intervening in reality, right? My kid's got 105-degree temperature. They're bleeding out of every orifice. Let's have a miracle.
Yeah.
You'll be burying your kid. And I say that without jest. That stuff is dangerous. Growing legs back, healing cancers, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. Not a fan.
Yeah. At that point, Nick, there are a couple of options. Most of them are pretty trolly, right? Like, if you want to be cool, give me an objectified, a list of all of the miracles that every Christian in this church has performed and how you proved that they were miracles, and then we can talk. That's one way to do it. Another way is to just, babble some Elvish at them and be like, there, I just spoke in tongues, up yours, right? There are multiple ways to poke at this. It just comes down to how much of a shit do you give about what they think of you after?
Very true.
Because it's very possible that there is no way in hell that you're going to be able to find common ground with these people. And that is going to be something that is probably going to be the outcome. I don't see a way where they are going to tell you that you are okay in their eyes if you are not a believer and you do not accept that they have performed miracles. But if you want to have some fun on the way out, that's up to you.
You took the words out of my mouth. 'Cause I was going to say, you need to be prepared for all possible outcomes.
Yeah.
One of them being, this may be a relationship that you actually lose. And that is sad. We've all probably seen it or at least heard of it.
Yeah.
To where if you are not a part of this religion, that means you cannot be a part of this family.
Yeah.
And that's, you need to be prepared for all possible outcomes. And that could be one of them.
Yeah, I've been dealing with that for years already.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to get back into the family now.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
Yeah. And honestly, the best thing that I've found is I was never going to get back in touch with my siblings through arguing with their pastor, through arguing with my parents. I was going to always be that person that they could come to talk about things that they couldn't talk about with anyone else. And that's how I built up those relationships. It could be a couple years, and it's going to be fucking hard.
Yep.
But there is going to be that point where they see that you are out there thriving, being a good person. Who the fuck cares if you've done miracles, right? You are somebody that they can go to. As long as you're a safe space for them, then you are setting yourself up to be the best support for them that you can be.
Exactly.
And that's all you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, we are going to have to wrap up. We still got some super chats to read, but thank you so much for calling in, Nick. We really appreciate talking to you.
Go get him, Nick.
Certainly. Thank you for taking my call.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye. All right, those are calls.
Way to go.
How are you feeling?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so last up, we are going to read some super chats.
Okay.
And then we're going to plug you again so everyone knows where to find you.
I was about to say all about being plugged. That would have come up out bad. Okay. Insert sex joke.
Kendall Brast sent $15 and says, my wife and I love to watch SG. You two are the cutest couple of atheists we know. Eric was with such a soothing persona, and V when they get their dander up. They are so fun to watch. Love you both. Thank you, Kendall. Appreciate you. All right, you want to read the next one?
Oh, yeah. He gave me the one name that I can't pronounce. I'm sorry if I'm screwing this one up. Arvid Markov.
Beautiful.
You dropped 20. Way to go. All right, what do you got? Hey, been thinking of calling in for a while. Why didn't you? But I'm nervous about picking a good topic. It's a good topic when you make it one, my friend. Does U.S. politics
About, I think that's going to be. Let's see, pull this out.
About public. There we go.
Oh, love it. Okay. Does U.S.
Politics and public discourse seem overly nationally myopic? That is a big word. Doesn't that mean you don't see far away?
Yeah.
Okay. Or could international comparisons be effective arguments? I don't know what that means in English. I'm not going to lie.
Arvid, I think that it would be an interesting conversation to have, but I don't know if this show is going to be the best one for that topic. We do touch on political stuff, but neither Eric nor I are a political theorist. If we have one on, absolutely, that would be great. Essentially, I think I do take your point, though, that a lot of the time when we talk about U.S. politics, it's very much like, well, what did we do in the past or what could we do in the future, and not what are other countries doing currently that we could emulate or, take warnings from. So totally get that. Bree Badger sent $5. Thank you, Bree. And says, that was beautiful, Robert. Excellent way to cut through the nonsense. Milk North says,
that's how you say it. Milk North.
There you go.
Finally. I've been stressing for 2 hours. Hello, Milk North. That is a great name.
He was too shy to call in today, but hopefully in the future. All right. Next up.
What? Argy just sent a banana. And you dropped $1.99. Way to go. And banana.
And banana.
All right.
Fancy Monkey sent $10 and says, got stuck with hours of windshield time. And as usual, y'all are my favorite traveling companions. Right. Love ya. Thank you.
Way to go. What do we got? Sarah Dye, you dropped 10. Way to go. Wow. Absolutely loving you, Robert. Thank you very much. And we'll be immediately checking out your podcast. Thank you guys for a great show. And thanks for checking out my podcast, Gin and Truth. Let's go.
All right. And then John Klein sent $5 and says, show us your guns, Robert. We need a caption week for the picture for the week.
As in my biceps?
We'll talk
okay,
about
thank
that.
God.
But this does give us a really good opportunity to plug you. For other people who definitely want to check out your work, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at RCReed40. You are going to regret hitting the follow button, but knock yourself out anyway. I'm on YouTube, Gin and Truth on YouTube, and podcast, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Gin and Truth. That's where you can find me.
Make a gin, tell some truth.
I tell the truth whether I got the gin or not, but gin, just tastes delicious.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. As always, I'll be here next week. No after show today, but we will have one next week. Until next time, we're glad we had this talk.
We are so glad we had this talk.
So glad.
All right.
It's the best talk.